welcome to the official launch of the LNETN project. Although we are 1 year in the project, however, first year was devoted to administrative organizational issues and hiring the young talent, our early stage researchers. So we decided to have this official launch when everyone now is in together. Before I start, I was asked to remind you by my colleague Anna that by attending this press conference, you agreed that this conference is being recorded and pictures can be taken. What's going to happen, I will provide a brief introduction to the project as a project coordinator. Then my colleagues, who are local project leaders, Svante, Neil, Petri, and Dmitry, will provide an overview of their own local teams and projects. And then the first half will conclude by a viewpoint by John Riley, who is one of our external quality auditors. And then we'll have the second half, a Q&A session. So I think Anna will help me monitor if somebody raises a question or writes something in the chat, yes. so that we can address the questions. We do hope there are some, we invited mass media from, at least from Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and UK, and hopefully they're there. And after we finish the press conference at around 11:30, we'll have about half an hour for the possibility for the correspondents to have individual interviews in dedicated Zoom rooms. But of course, given the Zoom online presence, feel free to contact anyone in the room in Zoom who is part of the project. So LNETN stands for Legitimation of Newness and its impact on EU agenda for change. It is an action under the Marie Skłodowska-Curie European Network. And within the Aalborg University, it's part of the Theory Building Research Program. That is a collaborative research program that brings together scholars, PhD students, practitioners in a interdisciplinary, intersectoral, inter-technology, and international manner. In the project, we have 4 beneficiaries. That is Aalborg University Business School, or Aalborg University is the main applicant. Then we have School of Business at Hampstead University, Business School, Adam Smith Business School at the University of Glasgow, and Matti Ahtisaari Institute, that is part of the Business School, and I believe it's part of the University of Oulu. And my colleagues will present their business schools and the projects later on. Then we have 10 partners, 9 non-academic and 1 academic partner who are mentoring early stage researchers, PhD students, engaged in the co-supervision, engaged in hosting them as secondments, and also they'll be involved in guiding them through their research if and when needed. Also, we have 2 external quality auditors, John Riley and Andy Lowe. John Riley of University of Kent and Andy Lowe of Grounded Theory Institute in California. And last but not least, we have our young generation of scholars, future scholars, leaders who are represented here. And then later on, if somebody wants to talk to them, feel free. They're here online present. Why LNETN? It was a long journey till we started the project. with very few of us. My colleagues who I've mentioned, also John Riley, Norman Fraser, were here at the very beginning of the inception of the LNETN, I think 3 or 4 years ago. When we got together, we looked at what we need to deal with in the current world. Clearly, what we're witnessing, a lot of events with high innovative power, but in the face of the presence of high degree of newness and uncertainty, their impact most of the time is negative. They have social impact as a with negative sign. And these are just a few examples of what we're witnessing today. And to a certain degree, our early stage researchers will deal in their PhD studies. Therefore, we need these future leaders not only be able to deal with such events with high degree of innovative power, with high degree of newness and uncertainty, but also develop policy, practice, scientific recommendation as to how to deal with the need to legitimate these new events and uncertain events, and of course change the sign from negative to positive. In the same vein, these high degree innovative power events with high degree of newness and certainty put pressure on the expectations of profiles of the future graduates. As the high degree of uncertainty and newness increases, and there is a high demand to deal with the legitimation of newness and high degree of innovative power, the pressure on the expectations of profiles of future graduates also change. These were expectations in 2010 about what graduates should have in 2015. There were a bit of changes into the expectation in 2015 for 2020. Today, the expectations, as you can see, changed dramatically. So we expect our future leaders to have mental elasticity, to be able to solve complex problems, to be comfortable in working around in a disciplinary manner in terms of knowledge and practice, have critical thinking, creativity, people skills, STEM and SMAC skills. So, and we expect this one, another reason that we developed this LNETN project. So how do we respond to all these challenges of the events with high degree of innovative power, high degree of newness and uncertainty, and increased pressure on the profile of future graduates to match and to deal with these challenges? The first main objective of the project is to establish a unique doctoral training and research program, or ETN stands for European Training Network, to train 15 early stage researchers in theory building, quadruple-i research and training, that is interdisciplinary, intersectoral, intertechnology and international manner, and equip them with the high transferable academic and subject specific skills. The next main objective is to train the new generation of entrepreneurial researchers and practitioners in the perspectives of newness, legitimacy, and theory building in at least 15 sectors. So each ESR will deal at least in one sector. So we expect to have a high impact in at least these sectors. And the third main objective is to develop as outputs, 15 outputs, 15 PhD theses, and innovative legitimation of news and theory building research projects that will have a high impact in today's world. And of course, we always aim to bridge practice and theory in this regard. To achieve these main objectives, we structured the project based on this framework. So we have RT stands for research themes. So there are 4 research themes around legitimation of newness that is a core of this project. So one research theme is to look into legitimation of new institutions and policies. Another one is to look into legitimation of new industries and ventures. The third one is to look into legitimation of new organizing forms and practices. And the fourth one, to look into legitimation of newness in modern and traditional contexts. And on the left and right, we have the impact that we expect to have that I mentioned. And on the left side, the main features of the overall program as a summary. So after this, my colleagues will dive into the specifics of the research teams, because they are leading one of these research teams. They have their own local teams in terms of the support, supervision. They have the local teams in terms of the early stage researchers. And then we'll conclude by a viewpoint from John Riley. And now I'd like to give floor probably to Svante.
Should I share my screen from here, or?
I'm just opening it, Sven.
Yes.
Or are you sharing the PowerPoints?
I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a minute.
Okay, we are happy from Halmstad University to be part of this project, and especially as our focus is on innovation, so it suits us very good with it.
Svante, just a second. Anna, can you change the view? The view on the top left corner, so that the slide's only visible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and from Halmstad we have a team. Can you change, please? It's me who is the project leader, but it's also Jonas Gabrielsson. He's a professor here in Halmstad too. And then we have Professor Natasha Evers. She's a guest professor here, but most of her time she's at Trinity College Dublin. And we also have a close cooperation with Geting AB, and they're represented, and is the president Harald Kastler. But of course, most important in the projects are our PhD students. So if we go over to them, we have Manuela. She is conducting a project about international growth in the life sciences, the influence of new institutions and policies on the emergence of new product concepts. So she's working in close cooperation with the Geting AB, and she's looking how their new organization and branding strategy are evolving over the world, and how they have to adapt to changes in the world and changes in institutions and so on different markets. So that's our first PhD student. And then we have Jackson. And his project is about competing for legitimation. And he is looking at the international new venture in the creative industries. And he will look both at how firms are developing, but also how new industries are emerging. And his focus will be on digital advertising firms. And then we have Denise. Her project is about styles of representation of newness and change in creative industries. And she's going to explore how newness and change, new methods and practices are explained and communicated, aiming for legitimation. And her focus will be on the food industry. And then last but not least, we have Louisa. Her project will be about legitimation process of new actors and new business policy partnerships. So she's more looking on, on the policy level. She's going to look at how new institutions and policies shape and are shaped by innovations and new technologies, and how new business policy relationships are created, emerge, and are legitimated in various contexts. So thank you very much. It was a short description of Halmstad University is part of this project.
Thank you. Now I believe it's Neil.
Good morning, everyone. Can I share my screen or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a minute, I'll make you co-host, I think. Oh yeah, great.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good morning, everyone. My name is Neil Mackenzie. I am the local project leader for the University of Glasgow, and I have some information on the different parts of the University of Glasgow projects as part of the LNETN network. So we have 3 ESR early stage researcher projects. We have legitimation of bioenergy in the 21st century bioeconomy, which has been run by our ESR Gonzalo Rodriguez. We've got the Internet of Things by Asa Pandey, and we've got FinTech by Felix Honecker. There are 3 University of Glasgow supervisors on the project. There's myself, there's Dr. Gillian Gordon, and there's Dr. Dominic Chalmers. Gillian is overseeing ASTA's PhD, working with colleagues in Sweden, and Dominic is overseeing Felix's PhD, working with colleagues in Finland, I believe. We have a number of industry partners part of our project as well. These include both FinTech Scotland and Scottish Edge. FinTech Scotland is the advocacy group for the FinTech industry in Scotland, and Scottish Edge is an early stage business plan competition that funds very early stage technology businesses. What we're looking to produce as a partner in this consortium is 3 doctoral monographs. We're slightly different from the others because the others are producing PhD by publication in the form of 3 articles. Ours come out as a single monograph, but obviously we'll be looking at the different other outputs as well. Other research outputs will include things like conference presentations, journal articles, book chapters, and research reports. And ultimately, what we're looking to move towards is a form of policy impact. It's looking to understand how we can affect positive change on the EU's agenda going forward. The ESRs in particular, Gonzalo at the top here is looking at how new high-tech sectors emerge, innovate, and are legitimated within the context of the bioeconomy in Europe, and he's looking specifically at bioenergy. ASTA is looking at how business models and new business models in disruptive industries such as the Internet of Things emerge and are legitimated, and Felix is looking at how technology, regulation, and ecosystems come together to support and sustain further innovation that are created and legitimated within the FinTech sector. These are all part of the research theme, legitimation of new industries and new ventures, which Romeo identified in his presentation. And taken together, we hope to produce work that has a sort of very positive impact on the different industries that we're focused on. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Petri.
Right, I will share my screen. Can you see my slides?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Petri Hokangas from University of Oulu. We briefly go through the projects that we have. In Oulu, the focus is on legitimation, business models, and ecosystems in general. We are working in 4 different domains from technology point of view. We have smart energy systems as one of the domains. We have platforms and data as the second one, and that can be focusing on different industries. Then we have the mobile communications sector, where we talk about 5G, 6G transition, and then the artificial intelligence in the healthcare area. These are the projects I'll be discussing a bit more in the next slide. The team here, we have 3 supervisors, me and Minna Pikkarainen, who is professor of on the healthcare area, and Timo Koivumäki is a doctor in this data related and digital market related things. We have 4 ESRs, Rashid Sadekhian, Julia Chang, Oksana Kiska, and Hamida Sadat-Manesh. And we do things in collaboration with Nokia and Bittium that are located here in Oulu. So let's go a little bit closer into the topics of our researchers. So we have Rashid working on smart energy systems, and he's exploring and studying how new innovative business models emerge and are legitimated within new ecosystems in the smart energy domain. So we are expecting that due to the distributed energy resources and the smart grids that are coming, the energy ecosystems and the business models that are utilized in this area are changing, and we are exploring how this change will take place and how it becomes legitimated. We have Julia Chang, who is looking at human-centered data management on platforms, and she's also looking at it from the business model perspective, and she is still to choose the closer domains from the industry perspective for her research. We have Oksana Giska, who is examining how new industries and new business models emerge and gain legitimacy, and how these changes impact the policy level and ecosystem level things in practice. And she's working on the mobile communications sector. And the 4th one, Hamida Sadat-Manesh, is looking how new business models emerge and from the human-centric perspective also, and how they are co-legitimated in the health business context. And her focus is on the artificial intelligence business models in more practice. So we are combining these 4 different technical domains. We have a little bit futures-oriented perspective in all of the 4 projects that we have here, and it combines the technical background things and the business model with the legitimation. Thank you.
Thank you, Petri. Dmitry?
Thank you very much. Now it's my turn. Very happy to speak to you on behalf of our Aalborg team. I hope you can see the slides now.
We can.
My name is Dmitry Slepnov, and we are hosting 4 of 15 projects. You can see here the titles. If we distill keywords, in the first one, ethics, fluid ethics is that one. In the second one, perhaps narratives and communication and how it relates to organization and practices that could be driving newness and legitimation of newness. The third one, I think the opening one is a good characterization, focus on Brexit. And then the 4th one, disrupting the disruptors, those who are in the innovation field, that should scream innovation. So 4 keywords, a shower of very interesting projects, as well as in our partner institutions. Apart from me, it's Romeo, who is heart and soul of the project. You already heard from him. He spent lots of sleepless nights on the idea and firmly believes in the project. Of course, great to collaborate with him in supporting these 4 projects that Aalborg University Business School is running. Myself, I'm doing my best to to be of a resource to the project as much as I possibly can. I work with global innovation and also involved in a number of other global projects that we are running. One of them at Aalborg University, one of them is with China. So I hope that we will be able, even though it's a European project, also maybe to create some synergy on the idea side of things. But I also wanted to emphasize, apart from us hosting these 4 projects, me and Romeo, we are engaged with our colleagues at Glasgow University, University of Rhode Island, and also our industrial partners, the number of institutions mentioned here. Because cross-disciplinary but also cross-institutional collaboration is such a big part of this project, and that's what we also try to highlight and emphasize in our collaborations. Industrial partners, Novi as one of the main ones. We're very happy. Geographic proximity with Aalborg University, this industrial science park, is also part of this project. In addition to this, our ESRs will be working with other industrial partners. Here we have data field. We also have social entrepreneurship, new factory. These are just some of the examples that our ESRs will be exposed to, and also mentoring from representatives of these industrial partners, of crucial importance, of course, to the success, because theory building for the sake of theory building is, of course, meaningless. We need a good dialogue between theory and practice, and this is such an important part of the project. Key outputs, nothing which will surprise you, in line with what others also expect. We also expect 4 solid PhD thesis projects, publishable research output in the form of academic publications, but also hopefully industry relevant insights, and aiming also at outlets that deal with managerial and practice impact. And in line with that, of course, that's what we expect also from all our projects, impact not only on the theory side of things and theory development, but also managerial and policy implications. And I would add also one more, that I think the spirit and the ethos of the project, transnationality, transdisciplinarity, trans-institutional nature, obviously hope is that the project will also contribute to the increasingly international profile of our newly established Aalborg University Business School, and also region where Aalborg University tries to obviously be an active partner and be that bridge to the rest of the world, to all also companies that are based, large and small, that are based here in the region. A few more words about our 4 ESRs, or our fantastic 4, as I like to call them. Again, in the spirit of the project, all of them have very international profiles. Olga, who will be working with fluid ethics in relation to the environmental area, really important subject, considering that we have so much greenwashing, that we have so much green bubbles emerging here and there. So the aspect of how we approach this from a more ethical side of things. She has her actually 2 master degrees, and again, in the spirit of internationalization, not from her home country, but from Italy and from Korea. We move to Christian, really important subject also of communication, because when we talk newness and legitimation, of course, how we communicate about that and how all that translates into organizational practices is of crucial importance. Christian also more than 1 master's degree, Kellogg School of Management features on his profile. Also a degree in organizational psychology from the University of Bucharest. We move to Louis. Brexit, as I already mentioned, will be his working focus, and that's this interplay between traditional and forward-looking context. Very interesting theme, very interesting and challenging subject. And Louis brings his background in English literature and theology here, so yet another interesting field from the University of Manchester is his degree. And last but not least, we move to Zuraf, working with innovation, his MBA from India, and ample practical experiences in the financial industry, as well as others have also good insights into the industry. Louis, his experience in consulting industry, Christian, his work in NGO sector, and Olga also with her practical experiences in different sectors and industries. Closing thought, I would say, really, the field of innovation and the field of creating new things was so much dominated by newness, but we probably all can acknowledge that there is so much misconception about this, and a much more perhaps important aspect is how that newness is accepted and is diffused, and that's where legitimation as a concept comes into play. And we hope that these projects, together with previously mentioned by other project leaders, ESR projects, will contribute to this elimination of this, or at least minimizing this misconception and getting the KPIs of newness right, with more focus on also how everything is legitimated. Thank you very much, and looking forward to continuing good collaboration with all of you on behalf of Aalborg University Business School. Thank you.
Thank you, Dmitry. John, what are you? Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to try to set this in a slightly wider context, and that's the context of the European Union program, Marie Skłodowska-Curie, which is sponsoring this project under the Innovative Training Networks. And what I want to say, first of all, about this, it's an extraordinary program. It's unique in the world. And it's about attracting the best brains to work in a network of universities in Europe. And Marie Curie has set the global benchmark for inter-university research training collaboration. As I say, there is no program anywhere like this. The EU is not just a trendsetter, it is actually setting up something which is going to lead the way in research collaboration of young researchers. And the program attracts the most talented researchers from all over the world to collaborate and share ideas. And it's important to note that actually because it's such a unique program, and because it brings together the best, it's highly competitive. So one could say that to be selected for this program is actually a privilege. It's a privilege for the institutions to be selected, and it's a privilege and an opportunity for the early stage researchers. And this project really exemplifies all the elements of the Marie Curie program objectives. It has global reach. We've just had an introduction to all the early stage researchers, and I think, Romeo may correct me, but they're from 14 countries, so that already there's a strong international dimension there. The university partners are in 5 countries, the USA, as well as the 4 EU partners that we've mentioned. Perhaps I should qualify that now, because Glasgow, regrettably, is no longer in the EU, but it was when it started, and its heart and soul is certainly with the EU. And the project is training a new generation. And I'll use the words of the project: creative, entrepreneurial, innovative. And the topics that they've chosen, you've had these introduced to you they're multidisciplinary, and they address complex current challenges which are going to make a difference in the future. And they're addressing innovation. And they're addressing innovation, as the colleagues have said, to inform decision-making and policy implementation. And that will contribute to the social and economic development, I suppose, first of all, of the European Union, but also because these colleagues, these early stage researchers are international, it will have a global impact. And I think ultimately, what they demonstrate is the fundamental importance of research and research training. And for me, this is exhilarating, and above all, seeing and meeting these 15 early stage researchers, the new generation, it's inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Now we are open for Q&A. I don't know who is in room from mass media, newspapers, radio, TV, or anyone who wants to add few things. I see Norman there. I know Norman has been at the beginning when we had the first meeting in Glasgow. If you remember, actually putting the roots of this project, I think 3 or 4 years ago. So thank you. Anyone from the press? Do we know Berit, Anna, Petri, Neil, Svante? Do you recognize anyone in the who is?
I think we have some guests, but there are no raised hands or no questions in the chat, so I don't know.
Yeah, I see here people from our communications.
Okay, so not so much media presence, it seems. Okay. Well, if there are no media presence, Chris, you want to say something?
Just a practical question, Romeo. Access to the recording and permission to take clips from it, because I think what we all can do in our different institutions and organizations is put a message out to our networks and tailoring it for what it means for us to be involved. And so I'm really just interested in the practical bit. How can we get an access to the recording of this and ensure we have permission to clip it, to take a short audio soundbite from it?
I think I'll leave this to Barry to figure it out and later on inform everyone. At least we have everyone's consent here for everything to be recorded and in pictures taken. Now we have to figure out how that plays in terms of distribution.
Yeah.
And in connection to that, you can have this as an open question, and please let us know now, because we're also reporting this, if you're not able or will like us to share this among the consortium. So please mark or set put in a message in the chat, or otherwise I just think that we will, collect this recording and then we can share this among the members here.
Just put it somewhere online and share us the link. We can then share it also outsiders as news.
Yeah.
And I think on our side, we are going to have a press release coming out at 1 o'clock Finnish time.
Okay.
On this.
What we can do then is to put this video into the news that we already have. So we have already a link with the news, and then somewhere at the bottom we can put this the link to the video.
Good idea.
And then everyone can distribute it. Okay, so now we looks like we have internal discussions for 20 minutes until 11:30. If anyone wants to contribute with anything or comment. With questions, comments. Anyone? Okay. Yes, Christian. Yes.
I'm curious, how do you imagine the change at the European level policy as a result of this program?
I have to throw this back at you, and not only you, at all the SRs, because it's the pressure on you. So you have to develop. So it's written in the project application that you have to produce, each and one of you produce a framework, policy, practice, or scientific, with a high impact on European policy. So this means you have to really work hard and to explore what you can do from your research perspective, so that in your specific area, you can develop a policy framework, practice framework, or scientific framework that can impact behavior of policymakers, practitioners, academics, non-for-profits, technologies, etc. Are there other questions? No questions in chat?
Can you hear me?
Neil?
Yeah.
So Neil is talking. Who else?
I have a comment just to follow up on Christian's question. I think that affecting policy change is a challenge, and it's a hard thing to do. And I've worked in policy for almost 20 years now. When I was doing my PhD, one of the reasons for doing a PhD is because I actually want to become a policymaker. And I then spent several years after my PhD in academia, and I've not left academia, but working very closely with policymakers. And what I realized after probably about 10 years was policymakers will change policy on a whim according to any conversation they have with special advisors, or whatever the new exciting news story is, which pushes them to change. And that's often because of the nature of politics. So when you guys are writing your PhD and when you're thinking about the impact that you can have, what you're really trying to do is to produce something that's persuasive, but that has a level of posterity about it. So something that allows you to point to a robust evidence base, a robust empirical discussion that says to policymakers, it would be sensible for you to pay attention to this. And it would be sensible for you to pay attention to this because it will make your life easier by doing this, this, and this. And it's taken me a long time to come to this realization, because I thought policymakers were very meritocratic and everything else, but they're not. They're subject to the same pressures as politicians, as academics, as commercial people. And really what they're looking for is for something to make their life easier. So if you're able to produce something which gives them a tool or a framework or a way of thinking or a way of developing a policy which benefits them and benefits society, you'll be far more likely to have the impact that you're being pushed to try and derive.
Thank you, Neil. I know Norman, if he wants to comment. I know when he started his venture in Moldova, in Dava, then I know he influenced policy quite a lot. Then we have Chris, who's been dealing with policy in UK quite a lot. So maybe if you guys want to comment, Norman?
It's not an easy question, but I mean, my backstory was that after Moldova became independent from the Soviet Union, the former IT industry more or less collapsed, and so I was at the forefront of starting a business, which led to the new emergence of an IT industry where it had disappeared, and it was necessary to influence policy, to try to influence policy to make that venture even possible. Because, for example, at the time that we started, within Moldova, value-added tax, sales tax, had not been legislated for in a way that would allow work to be done in that country where the benefit was delivered in another country. And that's possible when you work in software, obviously. You can do the work in one place and deliver the product somewhere else. And this is not a happy answer to your question, but we ended up having tax code rewritten in such a way that it would benefit, that it would support this kind of business. And nowadays, the sector that we fought for contributes more than 10% of GDP in Moldova. So the stakes are high, it's worth doing. Along the way, of course, a lot of people thought that we were simply trying to avoid paying the tax that we should have been paying in Moldova. And the officials that we were dealing with were afraid to rule in our favor, even when they understood the point of our argument, because the appearance would be that we must have been paying them bribes in order to get them to rule in our favor. So that's an extreme example. To turn to the more everyday, it's absolutely vital not to underestimate the importance of simply talking with people. I spent a lot of time just socializing what we were doing with senior politicians, civil servants, and in fact, I explicitly asked, this might seem a bit crazy, but I asked somebody to help me so that I could go and meet some, let's call them mafia bosses. Because when you're trying to navigate, to come into a territory and navigate the creation of something new and different, you kind of want to know that nobody is going to do bad things to get in your way. And I found it necessary to go and to say, look, what I'm doing is this. It's completely non-overlapping with any of your ventures. I have no intention of overlapping with anything that you're doing. I'm not here to approve or disapprove of what you're doing. I'm just saying, I'm over here, leave me alone. This is irrelevant to you. So maybe someday I'll write a paper about the process of legitimating policy with mafia bosses. Not yet. I've got to wait for some of them to die first.
Thank you, Norman. Chris, would you like to comment?
I can see Lewis also has his hand up.
Oh, and Petri? Okay, so who was first?
I think Lewis was first.
Lewis was wanting to raise an issue. My question, Lewis, is it on the same area? Because I could build on what Norman has said and won't take long. But if it's the same topic, let's let Lewis in.
Hi, Chris, and hi, everybody. Yeah, it's on the same topic, but you go first, Chris. I'll defer to you on this occasion, and then come back in after you.
Okay. It's just really to say that this what Neil said is very, very relevant and very true. It's a massively challenging task to successfully affect policy in such a way that it becomes influential at national and supranational level and lasts. And that's the point, so that you get to a stage where what people thought was impossible is accepted as the normative way we do things around here. I have two examples from personal experience that strike me immediately. Once when I was leading a consortium in health and care in the UK, and attempted over a number of years to persuade that sector to agree that every single worker, not just the doctors, nurses, and social workers, the professionals, but all the others, should have basic qualifications for the safety and security of the people they fed, cleaned, washed, and into whose homes they went. And when we first said that, people said it's pointless, it's impossible, no way. We were talking about influencing the lives of about 1 million people. And over the space of a number of years, we introduced standards. And in the UK today, it's not possible to work in care of any sort without a basic qualification. Similarly, in the police, I've had some experience of transforming the basic content of police recruitment, the training of recruits to the police service. What strikes me is, firstly, evidence. You need evidence, you need networks, and you need collaborators, and you need good sense. You've got to be wise and wily, actually. The police recruitment example, all I would say is that I had meetings on a railway station platform with someone who was the key special advisor to the Home Secretary in order to bypass the obstructors. And as a result of that, presented enough persuasive evidence for the Home Secretary to decide to take a risk and declare that he wanted something done, even though he knew that the dinosaurs would say, this is outrageous, no. So evidence is where you're working particularly critically important. But then, you know, what wisdom, collaborative champions, and some kind of safe piloting. It's the other thing. You do something in a corner somewhere which is safer to the point where it looks like it's working, then everybody wants one. So it's quick summary, but evidence and networks don't hide in the academic bubble.
Question was excellent, and research can really do a big thing. As an example, a couple of years ago, we were working in the mobile communications area, just looking at the business models of the mobile operators and what will be the change that 5G will bring. And I think many of your projects are around technical issues that are changing. So what we did, we introduced a new concept called micro operator that we nowadays call a local operator. And everybody knows that nowadays in all countries we have a handful of big mobile operators that dominate the market. 2 weeks ago, Vodafone made an estimate that in 2030 there will be more than 1 million operators in Europe. So there will be a huge change based on the research that we made on the concepts that we were developing. And when we are working with these kind of things, we are doing it together with the ministries because they are part of this regulative logic. And who knows whom of your outcomes will be used in these projects as inputs when the new things are designed based on the data of the researchers, based on the feedback from the industry. But you will have an opportunity to work in areas that are or that have the fundamental opportunity to change the world. And I think that is the EU level impact that everybody can work for.
Thank you, Petri. Andy?
So, hello everybody. I've got a very practical question. And the essence to Norman and anyone is, what strategies do you recommend in today's Zoom and COVID-19 environment? Because in my opinion, unless you are eyeballing people in the same physical room, you don't get the same connection, however good the video is. And it's clear, I'm not a medical scientist, but it's very clear that this is not going to disappear in June. It's going to be here for at least another year, maybe longer. So what practical strategy does anybody have to help the researchers to try and overcome and deal with this situation? Is there a workaround?
Norman, and then Petri.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because the subtext of your question is don't underestimate the human, don't underestimate the power of human contact, and the ability to read the micro signals that come only from face-to-face interaction and so on. I think, and if I may plug the public lecture I'm giving in about an hour and a half, where I'll talk about some of this thing, this kind of thing. I think it's necessary to craft compelling stories, and by that I mean I've sort of come to believe that legitimation is built up in individuals using a whole variety of different building blocks, and then individuals come together and through a kind of social consensus, we get institutionalization. But the stories are really important. It's necessary to create kind of memes or earworms or iconic images and metaphors that people can hold on to, that make these new and uncomfortable innovations either feel familiar or that it makes it possible to fit them into existing structures of understanding, and thereby some of the shock of the new is dissipated, and but I think compelling stories that almost stick to people are really important.
Thank you, Norman. Petri?
We also have two guys with their hands up. I don't know who was first.
Petri want to respond, I believe, to this question, right?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And on the long term, we will have holographic presence coming in the digital world. And we are working in the area with our projects that are aiming towards that direction. And I think that we will be quite soon experimenting with that kind of thing. So that's one of the practical strategies that is there, that develop the technology that will change the world and support that. But it's a little bit far-fetched answer, I know. I think that, Andy, you're not happy.
No, I mean, as Milton Keynes said, in the long term, we're dead. So what I'm looking for is a fix that will help these guys in the next 6 to 9 months. I mean, do we really think it's possible or reasonable to form a relationship with someone you've never met on a video link? Or should people just wait until things are normalized?
Andy, I've been pondering this a great deal over the last 12 months. I'm sorry that I can't share my video with you. My name is Patrick Fine, and I work with mold at the shop. And we have been looking at socializing in this new environment, and the way that behaviors are changing, and new forms of trust are being built. And there are 3 things which we're doing. One is we are using advanced virtual reality type of platforms. So there are many options that go beyond Zoom, which are more interactive, which helps a little bit. Secondly, we're actually putting together a series of events which are designed to convene groups of people who are interested in each other. And I think it would be very good opportunities for some of the ESRs to participate in those groups, not just as receivers, but also contributors. But the third thing is actually your problem, Andy, is part of the whole journey of this exercise, which is the legitimation of newness. How are we going to legitimate in a world of virtual engagement? So collectively, we will be coming up with answers to your question as we go. No one can function by saying, I want the world to go back to what it was before. So everybody's got the same problem.
Thank you, Patrick. Now going back to Louis' question. Louis?
Sorry, just unmuting. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm on my phone, so it might not be the best. Yeah, I was just intrigued by the question and very, very happy to hear the responses to some degree. I mean, from my experience, my thinking about my PhD at this point is that it's not necessarily going to be the PhD in and of itself, which is going to be the thing which might influence policy. From my experience, what influences policies is things that people do, and that's from working with a number of clients in my previous role, and organisations, including Gina Miller, who is relatively famous in the UK for challenging Brexit. So it's kind of an interesting point in relation to my PhD, is that it's people who influence policies. And it's not just any research in isolation alone or a framework that's going to do it by itself. It's how that is kind of brought into the world in action. And for me, I imagine that to be in work life after the PhD has taken place to some degree. I'm not saying that research will remain siloed in its own right, but more that it's going to influence work life and how we interact with the world at a later stage. And that's my kind of thinking on it. And so it's very encouraging to hear the speakers' different perspectives on this one as well. I really enjoyed listening to that. I'm looking forward to the lecture later on this afternoon to hear a little bit more about that.